First of all, thanks for having me today here. This is Sinan, the person who's running local operations for Crossover in 10 countries and 11 cities, and doing this with 25 people working fully remote. Actually, some of you guys may have heard about Crossover before. Can I see some hands? Like, how many of you guys heard about Crossover before? 50% awareness. And as you know, we are a remote organization, so basically we have over 5,000 people working remotely. So we have some expertise around the subjects, and today I'd love to go deep and talk about how to manage remote teams. No marketing sentences, no fancy subjects. This 4 is all you need to manage remote teams in any business domain: engineering, sales, support, business development. First, you need to test your team in a very, very tough way when you're hiring them. Please don't go easy. Don't try to hire people who look good, or don't try to hire just good guys. He should be a good team member. Don't do that. Just test them very tough, no matter what the business domain they're working in: sales, support, engineering. Again, make sure you're testing them with a case, and make sure you have a full understanding of their skills and abilities. Second is, like, today's work life is more like trying to ride a bicycle between countries when we all have Teslas in our hands, because some of us are still working in cubicles. Like, we have cubicles going to the office starting in the 9 a.m. or like working until maybe 6 p.m. This is, I believe, like last century. What we need to do is to leverage the technology we have today so we can give people more freedom in terms of working from where they want, when they want, and just focus on metrics and keep tracking them. I believe this is making a lot of people happier, at least in my organization. And metrics. I believe that is the core of success, and will be a lot more, let's say, popular in the upcoming years, because I believe more companies are going to focus on metrics instead of focusing on things like, hey, what are you wearing today? Did you wear your tie? Do you have a jacket on you? Or why didn't you come down to our fancy office in the city center? Instead, people and companies are going to manage people with a single and understandable metric. I'm going to talk a bit more about what that means in business and how we can take advantage of it. And I'm going to make this presentation from a manager's perspective, but if you are not a manager, if you're a team member today, you can just push your management to change their perception so they can give you more freedom. And compliance. Remote life is something else. You don't really get to, I don't know, drive your friend to home after work, have some coffee together, because the guy is living in Buenos Aires. So it's hard to have coffees or beers with him, at least $3,000 tickets, right? So it's hard to meet with him. Instead, so since you don't have the social details in your life, you need to have a clear compliance program, and I call it driving the behavior. So you need to basically drive the business behavior of your team members so that you can get the expected business outcome. Okay, when we said remote working, what kind of scale are we talking about? As Crossover, today we have over 5,000 people working remotely in the whole world. And our size in Ukraine is a little above 100. And my team is only has 24 guys. So when you are managing remote tips, I did not wanted to mention don'ts, but based on my personal experience, I wanted to share some of the facts. Make sure you're just tracking a simple and single metric based on business value. So, hey, Sinan, I expect you to do this, but doing this and that and this also would be great. No, just one and very simple. And this is coming right after you test and hire people. You have to define a very simple single metric. Does not matter if you're hiring salespeople, engineering people, marketing people, business development people, support people. doesn't matter. Whatever it is, this is our motto in Work Smart Pro program we have inside. Define a single metric. And second one is like psychological, but it's nice. And I'm leveraging that a lot. Some of my team members are here and they should know. Have a table of metrics for each team members you're managing and make it visible to everyone. I call it shame factor. So, hey, these guys are not better than me, but they're producing better results. There must be a way, right? I mean, if you have a bottom performer, you have to let him see that he's a bottom performer. Most of the offices are not doing this and keeping things private and trying to talk to individual. No, make it open. Make him see that he sucks. He has to fix things to get on top of the list. And usually, once people like see that they are bottom performers, if they are good enough, of course, they are trying new things to change themselves. And as a manager, if you're managing teams in the group, how many managers do we have? At least like team size of 2. How many managers do we have in the room? Okay, cool. So, if you're managing teams, you also have a chance to like talk to them and tell them that, guys, you are bottom performers. Since we have technology and we know what's happening in your daily activities, you may want to try this instead to generate more results. Today we have that technology. This is what I'm doing every week, and I believe it's useful, especially core when you're doing remote. I have 24 guys working remotely, and one of them is from United Kingdom. His name is Stu. I am giving 1 hour for every single direct report of mine. Like whoever is working with me, I'm giving them 1 full hour and expect, like giving them full freedom of using it. Sometimes they're telling me about stories from their families. Sometimes they're working, telling me about the work and business. But it's their hour with me as their manager, so they can use it however they want. With this way, I know Stu's mom is deaf, having some challenges, and Stu has to take care of his mom. So knowing personal details about your people is still important. Okay, this is new, working remote is the trend, we have technology and all, but we are still human beings. So you gotta listen to the guy and give him that full hour every week so he knows, okay, every Friday at 1 p.m. I'm meeting with that guy, okay? And he can tell you about his concerns, his ideas. It's not very different than regular workflow, but this is working. That's why if you're managing teams of remote people, you may want to try that. Reducing the amount of discussions around, let's say, gossips and non-metric things, like things that are not useful for business. So Kirill in the back end is my team member, and he knows what exactly that means. Don't talk about things that would be great, would be awesome, would be amazing. No, just figures. If there's no figures, remote life is very, very hard, and it's actually impossible. I'm originally from Turkey, Istanbul, and I had a chance to meet with a lot of enterprise Turkish companies. Like, I don't know, maybe you guys have know some of them, like LifeCell, Owner, Turkcell, and other companies, right? So these guys are like, hey, Sinan, we tried that before, but nah, it didn't work. Because all they did was to send people home. They had no metrics, no let's say, issue tracking or job tracking system. They just sent people home and expected them to work. It's not possible. It's not working that way. And the subject is clear. I believe it's self-explanatory. Defining a metric is okay, but to manage a team, you must know how the team works. So you need to clear a clear compliance program on a weekly and daily basis, so you can track if their activities are aligned with what you're doing. I believe you guys, like majority of you guys, are engineers, so you should know about this program. My time is a bit limited, so I'm going to go fast from now. And this part is critical, giving freedom of experimentation. So your people needs to feel free even if they're failing. Failing is okay. When you're remote, you don't have a lot of brainstorming sessions and others, so let them try new things with a controlled budget and controlled approach and fail. If they're going to fail, let them fail fast. That's the core. And last subject is universal, I guess. Pay them good. Otherwise, remote is not working. Okay, we talked about remote work and why exactly we had to master remote working as Crossover. Let me talk a bit more about the company who is the main investor of Crossover, and I believe the real power we're representing today, owning about 70 software companies and 200 enterprise software products, ESW Capital. And these guys are like crazy. At least they're acquiring one software company a week. So they call it import in the internal discussions, and they're importing new companies at least once a week. And they're the main investor of Crossover. And I believe this is the answer of the previous question. We have to master the remote working because they're using us as their exclusive hiring resource. So we have to basically feed this world giant with talent continuously so that it can grow and it can keep acquiring new companies. This is basically where the demand comes from. Because based on the dollar amount we're paying, I'm hearing a lot of stories. They're like, are you guys scam? Are you even real? Like, why do you need, who needs 200 Java chief software architects? That's crazy, but we do. And this group has 4 centralized software factories inside for engineering. And these guys are like dealing with a lot of challenges in terms of centralizing main functions among these 70 companies and centralizing support, sales, and also engineering. So probably after 5 years, you guys will be hearing more about ESW Capital as one of the world giants like Google or Microsoft. So what is their challenge? Let me talk a bit more about what matters for you guys, since most of you guys are engineers, I guess. They have, usually companies or even software companies have 2 different groups, right? Guys who are writing code, guys who are working on quality, testing and others. So I guess they're way beyond that. So they have 4 software factories inside ESW Capital. They call it feature, faster, easier, and maintenance. So they have 4 different factories working non-stop, and Crossover is trying to feed this monster, basically. And all of these, let's say, factories, all 4 factories are serving to all companies and all products inside this group. So it's centralized. When one of the companies needs a new feature, it has to go through the feature team. Let me talk a bit more about the infrastructure, because they're also dealing with some interesting challenges. When they are merging all of these companies together, they had some, for example, they tried to Dockerize everything and put them on Amazon, right? Back then we were calling data centers, local data centers, as code living on metal. But now, then cloud came and we started to talk about cloud as a fancy subject, but our guys are calling cloud as bare cloud. If you're just using one Amazon Web Services instance and we're deploying your application in there, they're calling it bare cloud. So what they're doing is focusing on let's say costs of running an application. They are Dockerizing all of the applications they have in hand. They're running them on huge AWS instances. So even in the Docker conferences, people are not supporting this idea, but their challenges and let's say work of reducing the cost of overall let's say application hosting process, they're pushing the technologies further, and today it's possible. So they have over 2,500 containers running on 8 largest AWS instances and 4 instances in Kubernetes cluster with 1.4K ports. And they're running like 300 average, and I believe what's the standard, or like what's the most ideal world is like 100 per instance, I guess. But they're pushing it further, as I said, because they're trying to build an economy of scale. And imagine it like a container ship. It's a lot cheaper to transfer your goods with a container ship if you have a lot of goods to transfer. So that's basically one of the biggest challenges of our group is facing today. This is a great guy, Mircea Strugaru. He is our VP of engineering. I had the chance to interview him for hours, and if you can just go to that link, you'll find the full interview, and you can understand this guy defining why do we need this high-scale engineering, and what are we trying to build with this talent around the world. You can just bookmark the link and read the story with Mircea, because I believe for you guys it's a lot more interesting to listen the story from him, because he's talking about real metrics, real factory parts, and how are we achieving this. If you're done, I'm skipping. As of today, we have 224 empty seats for Java talent in crossover. Number may sound crazy, but it'll be at least tripled in the upcoming 3 quarters. So we will continuously need Java people, and I believe we're one of the biggest employers of this region anyway. But just consider that. And here, how many of you guys are Ukrainian? Okay, very small percentage from outside Ukraine. We have local operations in Ukraine, and we have local operations in Romania, Russia, Turkey, I don't know, like 10 other countries. You can just go to this link and get a meeting with my local representative and manager in the city. So you can just have a coffee, talk to him, get more information. The guy on the back with traditional t-shirt on top, yeah, he'll be able to spend more time and answer your questions. I would love to thank you for listening to me, guys. I know this may sound a bit like business related, but that's all I had to say. Thank you.